Group of panelists. So Diane and Kyle, you've just been here. Please come forward. But also Maja Meissner, and also Robert Piaskowski. And I will just say who you are. Maja is an executive search.
She's a person who works, I don't know if you can say that she works in HR, but basically she works with various corporations, with heads of big companies, trying to find efficient and effective managers. And I'm very happy that you're with us. We'll try to find out from what it looks like from your perspective and in this community. Robert Piaskowski is the director of the National Center for Culture, which is the co-organizer of this event. Robert is also a long-term plenipotentiary of the mayor of Krakow for cultural affairs. He's the co-creator of many festivals, and he's a very interesting person, so it's worth to talk to him. And I'm just going to join you and sit down with you here for this discussion.
Tutaj też działa. Wspaniale, bardzo dziękujemy naszym.
So this works. We would like to thank the gentleman for acoustics, for the sound, that everything works. I'm going to ask Robert, because we have listened to all of that. The National Center for Culture and the Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Education, Book Institute, maybe I'm overlooking someone. The National Library, thank you. You run the National Program for the Development of Readership, and now you're preparing for our guests, our foreign guests, a program. This is a all-national program, all-Poland program, and the Ministry of Culture and the Ministry of Education together work on strategies for increasing leadership. So I would like to ask you about the new edition, how you work on it, but also in the context of challenges that Kyle spoke about. How do you see it? Are you terrified or no? I feel encouraged to share with you my gratefulness for this conference, first of all, because I think that the force of every program and the interventions of our guests here confirm it, is building a network of cooperation. And you, Maria, you do it in a wonderful way, in an effective way. You've mentioned NGO, but we were also together creating the foundation of a coalition of cities for readers. And the moment when 80 local governments signed this declaration in Krakow, this was the beginning of the thinking that the social change cannot be achieved only through the tools of big structural policies that also have successes, but also some limitations, formal and organizational. And this change has to be happening also from the level of local communities. And what we did after the second edition of the Readership Development Program, what do we have as conclusions is, besides the big successes, over 13.5 million books to local libraries, school libraries, preschools, next to the big investments into infrastructure that have changed the way that libraries function in small towns, especially up to 100,000 residents. One of the most important components of this program is the networking component and building competences and skills among librarians, and transformation of libraries into centers of civil involvement, citizens' involvement. So this program is happening all over the country. And there is another thing. that we coordinate is equipping the staff in new competences. This program has been met with such a positive evaluation that 98% of beneficiaries of the program evaluates it as something that has changed the perception of library and the relationship with libraries with others. And they have started networking with many other libraries, usually from the regional level, which shows that the future of the program of NPR is greater stress on building networks. There are many conclusions. Recently, the ministry has published a report from consultations that have happened in spring, and there were representatives of all sectors, all industries participating in consultations, all libraries, schools, the Ministry of National Education and sectoral organizations, and finally NGOs. There was a lot of conclusions, both positive and critical. The report includes the majority of these recommendations, and if I were to summarize them, I don't want to pour too much of details on you. It's a greater role of NGOs. We need to find a solution in order for the implementation of long-term governmental programs, so they can be run also by NGOs, because for now the legislation doesn't allow for that. The coordinator of these programs, of these operates of these single activities can be done only by an institution organized by the state. And the second thing is the stress on the book market. We talk a lot today about competences, skills, development, democracy, about the soft approach, about civic involvement, citizen involvement, but without a healthy book market, it's impossible. And I think that the book market in Poland is not in a very good shape. It's difficult to achieve all these noble goals like access to book, access to culture, right to culture. So we are very happy that the readership level has gone up, and it's higher than during the pandemics. It's 41%, but still we are facing great challenges. And another challenge is that we have the users of public libraries in Poland in the number of 6.5 million. So what about the remaining 30 million? I think that the role of libraries in today's society is growing dramatically in that sense. Well, not negatively, but critically. The role of libraries, which are sometimes the only institutions of culture on the local level, is the condition for the development of a society which is reading, which is critical, which is involved, which has the civic approach. This is why we are entering the era of libraries as centers of activity of citizens and democratic involvement. Thank you.
To you, because I think it's very interesting to see how you work with business, because Robert talked about the sort of state investment, right? And what obviously the state is doing here in Poland, and a lot of our states are doing. But I think your case in the way that you are actually driving your funds by sort of financing what you're doing within your programs, I think is very interesting, and the way you're not using but inviting business to work to do it with you. Could you say a word about that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I will say, I think the two big layers for First Book for engaging businesses. One is what you
have to keep your microphone close.
One is two layers for how First Book works with businesses. One is what you just referred to regarding the publishing industry in the States, but it doesn't have to be the US. I think these rules apply everywhere. What we went to the publishers with was a proposition, a business proposition. We didn't go to them and say, give us free books. These are businesses, and we want a thriving publishing industry. So what we went to them with was a business plan that said, the way you currently do your pricing restricts your market to the top 5% of the social and economic ladder. Because in the States, I'll just use a quick example, a premium picture book for a young child, it runs about $20, 20 USD. And what that means is that the market for that is absolutely constrained to the top 5%. Those are the families who can afford that in any kind of regular way. So we went to them with a business proposition and we said, we would propose that we will aggregate the buying influence at the lowest 30% of that same economic ladder. We will buy on a non-returnable basis, and we will knock every cost and every risk off the table that we can, so that there's an economic reason for them to partner with us. They are still making money with every book we buy. They're making a little bit of money, but it's risk-free. The books are not coming back to them, and it's a brand new market. This does not hemorrhage or undercut their current retail markets. That's not who's buying at retail, right? So that's one layer. A quick second layer is we actively work, about 50% of our budget is earned revenue from our first book marketplace. And about 40% is sponsorship packages that we work with businesses to develop. We work very, very hard to listen to the business folks on the other side of the table to say, what's a home run for you? What do you need out of this? Who are your customers? Where is your growth market? And we really work with them then to back into a sponsorship opportunity that meets their needs as a business and meets our needs for funding to serve our mission and reach our kids.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. It's obviously very interesting. I think Jonathan will later also speak about similar strategies in the UK. Maju, ja po polsku do ciebie się zwrócę.
Maja, I'll speak Polish to you because since we are talking about the business and, well, of course, as foundation, we try, well, like many other foundations, go towards business with various topics. Reading or literacy is one of the topics, but there are many topics, and this alliance can exist, right? But it doesn't exist always. Sometimes we are told that we need to fit into CSR strategy of a company and find a business that would be interested in a topic. But before we go to that, I would be interested to find out how much do you perceive it from the perspective, because you're a coach, yeah? Your work means speaking to people, kind of guiding people in a way, helping people. And when the client comes to me and says that he wants to employ someone sensible who run the entire organization or a part of it, and then my work starts. I've been doing that for 15 years, and really within the frames of this work, we work with the candidates and clients, helping them, mentoring them, coaching them, and showing them the contemporary world, because nowadays this is important. As Peter Drucker said, in every thread, the worst is that we try to behave according to yesterday's rules or yesterday's prescriptions or recipes, and we want nowadays leader to behave in a contemporary manner. But do you see, thank you for adding to what you do, but do you see, because this is something that perplexes me, would you say that you see a correlation that contemporary leader who is empathic. I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt. We know each other for so many years. I think I know what you want to ask. Yes, I do see. I see everything in a positive manner. unlike people who participate in this panel and our discussions today. In general, and this has been guiding me since forever, that if you want, you can, insofar as the world situation, because we have an office in Washington. We have been in the States for 2 years already, because this is the universal knowledge that we have. They want to employ the same leaders. People over the world want to employ the same leaders. So today it looks in the following way. I'm going to divide it into 3 parts. That the leader needs to know, leader needs to be educated, needs to understand the contemporary world, geopolitics. He needs to read. He needs to react every day to the changing world. Without knowledge, which absolutely comes from reading of a given manner or other, today's leader is lost in the world that we have, which surrounds us.
And then the leader, male or female. I use the male version to simplify it for simplification reasons, but secondly, it needs to work. The leader has to be effective, has to be on the side of agency. He takes up challenges, is responsible, and delivers as well. And this is why those who talk about the reality, and they talk about the reality but do very little, they actually retreat. The third aspect that is connected with our themes is that the leader has to be. It needs to be present, be active, and be. And that means he needs to act according to the values and really with the attitude, with the whole life, need to be in line with the values that his organization really presents. He needs to walk the talk. So he builds the organization with trust, and you know about the 5 dysfunctions of teamwork, and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed in the pyramid of well-functioning teams. At the bottom, there is trust, and this is where you need credibility, where you need to have knowledge and responsibility as well. And all of the leaders who I work with, they read. So from my point of view, an invitation to cooperate with a foundation like the cooperation we have here today that I have been part of for many years, it is a question of finding a leader who understands it without, saying anything. Wenger is here, and the president of Vileda, our partner, is here. You know the love brand Vileda, who came to us, and they came to us, and she said, "Oh, I've heard that you are working together with the Universal Reading Foundation. I would like to work this out." And so Vileda had to convince the German managers and decision makers. It was not easy, but a book has been created that was written and illustrated by the authors of suggested by the foundation here. And so it is sold now, the book, with Vileda in different shops, and I know that that's not the end. I know that for 2 years in your company, on your scale, with your agency, you are organizing everything so that the book would be present on all possible levels. Would you like to share anything with us? Just wait a second, you need a microphone. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This was totally unplanned, and so I have a bit of a stage fright. I was lucky to have grown up amongst books. I see it as luck. And when I joined Vileda's team, then Maja Meissner connected me with Maria. And in contact with Maria, but also what struck me in my team, in the team that cooperates with my company that I have the privilege of cooperating with, I was struck by an amount of problems that parents deal with, starting with depression, ADHD, different concentration issues. And when I talked with Maja, we noticed that it's partially connected with literacy. And it struck me, I didn't know that 30% of households in Poland have no books. So we started looking at it in the team. So together with Marynia, we organized meetings about writers, why it's worth reading. And instead of bottles of wine, we would give books as Christmas gifts. We also advocated for unlimited access. I don't know how to name it without naming the brand, but, well, here we can name it. We are not on Polish TV, so there are different platforms where there are e-books, audiobooks, they are available, and so all of our team members can use it as well. And really, in the halls, in our company, we started to talk about books, and that inspired me, yeah? And I also work with students. We have got interns, and last year, we also had essays and poems by Wisława Szymborska, the Nobel Prize winner. And all of a sudden, a girl of 21 came to me. She said that with my boyfriend, we sit down and we read out those poems out loud. And I said, great. But she says, we don't understand many words. I said, no worries, this can be managed. And she said, no, we Google those things. And so I realized that it makes a lot of sense. So considering the fact that 30% of households have no books, and we know what it means to read to a small child, we asked Justyna Bednarek to write a book. We wanted to really have someone who is competent in children's literature, how to write children's literature. So at the moment, we're at about 125,000 books that are added to our products. And it is pure business. And I don't want to do something here, Maja. No, this is wonderful, that the idea that someone is going to buy a mop because they want to get a book is absolutely wonderful. No, you have to buy a mop. No, not when you have a sponge, but if you want a mop and something else. So I hope that you do have a Viledas mop. If not, I encourage you to get one. And there's also going to be a book there. So we are planning on publishing 1 million books. So we are going to multiply that. Yes, there are also, I have a feeling that there are also many other campaigns ahead of us. Yes. So I just wanted you to see that this business really works. We also have a partner at Velobank who, in their branches, decided to introduce shelves with books. We have got Biedronka who sells books, and I just wanted to show you how it influences the agency. So these days, a leader needs to work, and if they read by themselves, then they will encourage, and they do encourage their employees also to read. What Kasia Ranga said, thanks to Maja. So the idea that we give out, we sell, but we give out books with a mop. And it's a very, very democratic. So, well, if you work in the library, you know this, but as Robert said, only a part of our population goes to the library. That's the reality. However, the mop, maybe there's not always the Viledas mop, so we encourage people to get a Viledas mop, but the mop is omnipresent. I would like to mention something. I'm really sorry, and then I'm going to remain silent. However, I want to say that always try to be on the bright side and not the dark side. So I just wanted to mention a new trend regarding employees and employers. So Gen Z has been mentioned, but at the moment we have got the social phenomenon which is perennials. So these are like the perennials that can blossom many times a year, many years. They are undescribable. Gina Pell in 2016 coined that term. And that is the generation 50 plus, 60 plus, that generation who now they start their second phase of life professionally and socially. And this is going to be one of the biggest raising groups globally. Also, from the demographic point of view, as you guess, it is going to be really vital for business. So they don't really feel the age. They are open. They continue to learn. They are open to the risk and to the responsibility. And certainly, they want to live another 20, 30 years in new roles. So I don't want to say how young you are. However, you are our new perennial because you are now in the second phase of your life. From corporations, you have come to NGOs, and you are running a really good foundation. It's managed well, it's run really well. And ladies and gentlemen, we have got a lot of representatives of the third sector. So maybe in the second phase of your life, you can come to the corporations, yes?
To the sort of inclusion democratic part of this conversation, right? So what we said about what Kasia Ronge did with the Vyleda MOP and the book, which is thus available everywhere in all stores to everyone. I think this is a very, very important move also from this perspective. And I think, Diana, you have a huge experience in reaching out to those who do not read, right? So I would say, I think it would be very interesting for us to hear how your strategies towards this. I heard from you guys 8 years ago that you would actually love to be able to work only with those who don't read, but you cannot discriminate those who read and not give them books, right? This is a nice sentence. But there's another part of the picture, which is that actually, if I don't get it wrong, what you're doing is not so expensive if we think state-wise, right? So why don't our states invest sort of more into your strategies? Investing into the early childhood is so important. Many questions.
Many questions. And why do states not invest in early childhood?
I mean, they do, but I think...
not enough.
Yeah.
And not enough for early reading. I think it's partly because those years when children are very young are very invisible. We all know about schools, but even here, there will be a parent out there. You have a 2-year-old, you may all remember. You are exhausted, you are caught in your own world. Policy stakeholders don't see you, and you don't have very much of a voice. Traditionally, this is seen as women's work. That's changing a lot. But I think there is a way that we don't really think of the early years as serious and as important, and some of our policymakers feel the same. My frustration is it's the cheapest time to get
exactly
involvement. You know, our interventions are very low cost comparatively, and for most parents, including those parents who have very little money, as you know, most of them want to do this. So in the UK, we do regular surveys, and for both all parents and from parents from poor backgrounds, 95% of parents know that reading is important. So it's not, they don't know about it. It's in Carl's words, how do we help them? So for our poorer families, only 40% of children get a regular bedtime story. And the reasons why those parents don't read are complicated. They might be about lack of confidence. They might be about poverty. They might be that they're going off to work in an evening shift and they have 3 children and they are out working because they need to make the rent. So we need to get into their world and work out what works for them. And what we do, and I know that there are many colleagues here and globally who do the same, you need to go to the parent in their world, not in our world of reading. You need to find out where they are. We give books and resources to partners that they trust. Somebody at the mother and baby unit, the local church, the community centre where they've chosen to go, the school that they trust because their older child is there. So you go to them and you give them books that they want. Parents know. In the UK, parents like books about going to the park. They want to get out of the flat or the house, and they want something simple and easy that they can then use partly to talk to their child. It may be totally different in Poland, what inspires your families, but you have to talk about what the parents you want to reach need, not the stories you think they should have, but the stories that they want. I always use an analogy.
Zawsze korzystam z analogii. Ja jestem nietypowa w Wielkiej Brytanii, ponieważ ja nie lubię piłki nożnej w ogóle. To jest bardzo nietypowe, żeby nie lubić piłki nożnej. Jeżeli chcecie, żebym grała w piłkę nożną z moim dzieckiem, no to nie masz mi pokazywać piłkarza, czy powiedzieć mi, że to jest dobre dla mnie i mówić mi, że powinnam pójść na stadion futbolowy. Powinniście mi dać piłkę i pójść tam, gdzie ja jestem, a ja jestem w księgarni i tam mi dać piłkę. Dla rodzin, które nie są chętne do czytania, powinniśmy zrobić to samo. Nie powinniśmy wychodzić z założenia, że lubią to, co my lubimy. Musimy to ułatwić i my musimy spowodować, żeby to było łatwe dla matki, która ma 3 dzieci przed 3. rokiem życia i która jest bardzo zmęczona. Tak, chyba...
There's a lot of initiatives. And we, during the EURead meeting last week that we had with Dan and Val, we had a whole panel about involving sportsmen, and that's current, and you were there, obviously, sorry, about this. But I would come back to you, Kyle, with, I think it would be wonderful if you could tell us a bit about what those 600,000 people do. I mean, what you give them and what they do on the ground or wherever they live, right? What are the strategies they might use? How do you inspire them? Because I know there's a lot, because you just showed us, you didn't have time, my fault, but now you can tell us a bit more. I think it's very interesting.
So let me start with who they are. Our 600,000 members are predominantly teachers and librarians, folks like that, from what in the US are called Title I schools. These are high poverty schools. But we don't stop there, because we believe, as I'm sure everyone in this room believes, that kids need 360-degree surround sound of educational opportunities, formal, informal, and so we have members who are librarians, who run homeless shelters, who run soup kitchens. We have folks who are running barber shops in their communities, as long as they can give us some information that shows that at least 70% of the kids they serve are from low-income families. They're welcome to come in. In order to serve them, we listen first. That is the reason why we started that research arm, because we found that there was a lack of ready data as to what the pressures are, what their needs are in those classrooms and in those programs. And so we listen first, and then we back into solutions. We design from the ground up. And so that means books on the First Book Marketplace. We got strong feedback. I mean, it changes all the time, but strong feedback that they were really worried about mental health of the kids they were serving, but they didn't feel trained in order to address that. I mean, these are school teachers and others, but they have almost no training as mental health people. So we instantly backed into holding hands with experts at the national level within the US who are preeminent experts on mental health, for example, and we got them to work with us to have free downloadable strategies that are research-based to address exactly the needs that we're hearing from the community. As I mentioned, we're launching this live stream option this summer. I mean, stay tuned, it could not work, but it might work very, very well, we're hoping. But it's an experiment, to be able to very quickly, readily address the needs we're hearing from the field. And one big need is that they want community. They feel isolated. And, you know, I don't get to sit in, pardon me, on every focus group, you know, that we host. But I sit in on them now and then. And what I notice is, you know, there'll be 8 people on the screen. And we have an external guy who runs the focus groups. And he'll be asking the questions, you know, et cetera. And then all of a sudden, it becomes obvious that they're sort of shoving him to the side. And because they want to talk to each other, because they are killing themselves, they are overwhelmed, they are undercompensated, and they are feeling isolated. And so you'll see the narrative in those focus groups shift, and they'll start saying, well, you know, I'm from Chicago, but the woman who just talked from Austin, Texas, she just said something, I want her to go. You know, they start firing questions back and forth to each other. So we are also trying to build in those kinds of supports because they want to learn from each other, you know? And I think that's a tremendously empowering possibility.
Nie wiem, my powoli będziemy też z sali.
So we will slowly be taking questions from the room. If anyone would like to ask, I would be very willing to continue this discussion, but if anyone would like to ask questions, there will be a possibility. But one question in Polish, I don't know if to Robert or to Maja, to Diana or to Kyle maybe, about cooperation. Kyle spoke about it, that we need to cooperate. And you've given the example of 60 organizations that together you have built diverse books. In short, yeah, the name is longer, of course. We also try to cooperate, and I think that here, this room is also the effect of various cooperations. But what I perceive as a difficulty to a certain degree is that we all work in silos, because the first, the second, the third sector is one thing, but that we work in silos, and that even on the level of local government even, which, well, local government people are wonderful, and I really like to work with them. But it is this approach that this is the Department of Culture, and the Department of Health is next door, and we are here, and they are over there. So do we have any ideas on how to tackle this? Lots. I think that in general, a lot of positive things are happening in the area of cooperations, institutions, and very strong opening in relationships, national institutions, local governments. Well, this cooperation was very much limited for 8 years, and as a local government person, I was actually experiencing this lack of dialogue. But in order not to enter some doubtful topics or dangerous topics, political topics, I would like to stress that we are redefining our institution from an institution that so far was targeted at supporting individual institutions or projects towards building cooperation networks. And it's starting to be a trend on the level of international organizations like at Council. I represented the Ministry of Culture in Korea recently. Poland joined the global network recently, this federation, and all our neighbors were there. And the fact that we weren't there before, it's really it shows how backward we were. And thanks to that, we achieved to obtain a greater perspective, because we're talking about perspective of the global north or Europe or United States. And it was interesting to hear about the perspective of being excluded from culture in the countries of global south, especially Africa, the level of literacy in the countries where there are armed conflicts lasting many years, and they were suddenly connected to the internet. This is a lesson in being humble insofar as how we are thinking and what are our duties. But going back to our scale, about what we can do, because we're speaking about literature, I would like to inspire you with a title which in my life has changed a lot, and maybe you know the book by Rebecca Solnit, Up in the Dark. So, yeah, Hope in the Dark. Which speaks about what we can do ourselves despite the silos of various systems. They will never cease to be silos, but even small groups of people impact the world, and you are the best example of that, Maja. So the future is unpredictable, but in this unpredictability, there are some cracks that give us possibility to act. And in those areas which are not managed, where we can start this agency, this moment of murmuring of the birds, this sculpture of moving birds in air. It was said recently that it's enough that one bird inspires 7 the closest ones to move, and suddenly thousands of birds change the direction. So I think that what we should do, we should change the approach to readership, not only from the perspective of research of those who read and also those who do not read, because there's a lot of interesting information encoded in the silence. Like the silence of 30% of people who didn't vote in our country. Who are they? Why didn't they go? Who are the people who don't read? Why don't they read? Is it the lack of practice or financial exclusion, class exclusion? Very interesting data for us, and on every level of social life, we need involved individual birds that will inspire the 7 remaining ones. And I'm going to go back to the program close. This is the smallest element of our national program. It's the smallest element, but paradoxically, there are people in the room actually who from our teams who deal with this project. And this is really moving. The relationships that are built among people, the knowledge exchange, also the transfer of leadership that Maja mentioned, understood as taking over the responsibility. And someone here, I also believe that whatever we can do is also inspiring politicians, influential people to speak in the literary language of literature. One of the opening speeches mentioned Barack Obama. I was in the Congress Library once, and there is a whole shelf with books about the methods of working with readership and readership policies. And I remember I brought a book from there, all speeches of Barack Obama and congressmen about readership, and that was extremely moving. I would like to see such a publication in our country. Maja, and afterwards I'm very happy that we had this panel. And that you mentioned Rebecca Solnit and Hope in the Dark. It was a very important book, especially during the pandemics when we had to look for hope in the dark. And I would like to stress that nowadays employees in their organizations need to feel safe. And the feeling of safety is started by building trust and by the fact that we are making as much as possible in our closest group, not looking into regulations and other big things. We just need to do the grassroots work. Monica, please. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for this panel and for the presentation. I represent a foundation for children's development. My name is Monika Leszczyńska-Woźniak, and for over 30 years we have been cooperating with the youngest children and all people who take care of them. I would like to thank you for all this inspiration, because currently we have the role of a national leader as an NGO, and I'm bowing here, because NGOs all over the country, in 16 of our provinces or voivodeships, introduce standards to all nurseries in Poland. This program only started, but among others, the standard include speaking with children. We will be teaching, maybe we don't need to teach it, but for sure we'll pay a lot of attention to read together with children, starting from when they enter the nurseries, but also we'll work with parents so that they speak while reading, so that they shape their relationships with one another. And I would like to thank you, and I agree, and I know that there are such studies that the foundations of being active in an environment, in a community, is when you are the youngest. So I'm very curious what will happen in 1 year. And I think that there will be an opportunity to be happy about what has happened.
The second thing is, I really would like to thank you for this metaphor with the birds, because it is true that in preschool and at school, well, in preschool, people still read to the children, but in the early years of the primary school, well, you know how to read by now, yeah? So they go slowly, and it is really tiresome, whereas the books and the beautiful stories could be read together with them at school, with the parents. And this is the inspiration that I am going to also pay forward. Thank you very much. I don't know if there are any other voices here. Thank you. Magdalena Radwa, the Institute of Educational Research. So first of all, thank you for this inspiration to work with your employees, inspiring employees to read, because, well, we listen, we hear about reading, and we could think that it's good, but we know that it's not too good. I understand that also during the study, we know that between 1/5 and 1/4 among our teenagers are actually threatened by the inability to fill out the form. The situation is even worse amongst the adults, because the PIAC study has gone askew somehow, but it seems that 39% of adults have an issue with understanding the written text. So we cannot think about just one part of this equation. So thank you so much that we are talking about children, also young children, and also about employees. And I also understand that what connects us is we are thinking about how to do it at school, about how to raise competences and how to get out of this trap. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Paweł Setkowski. First of all, I would like to thank the director. I didn't want it to interrupt you and give you an ovation, and I was really close to that, and I know that people do that, but you are doing a wonderful job for very little money. It's peanuts, so thank you very much. That's one. But secondly, I represent the business world, and I come from an event, Central European Security Forum. It was not easy. It was about Ukraine. There were some people dressed in blue, in uniforms, etc. So the situation, well, pretty difficult. So changing the context actually makes me want to share this thought that it is easy to manage stupid people, that it is a great temptation for those in power, that it's difficult to escape. If it's easy, it's easy. So why should we make our life more difficult when I make it easier to have access to knowledge? So this is not just a European or Polish phenomenon. That's the way it is. Unfortunately, we have AI, and what is interesting is that according to Oxford studies, and using AI for longer than 30 days on a regular basis, is that we unlearn what we outsource to AI. So, for example, when we outsource PowerPoint presentation creation to AI for longer than 30 days, then when we get off AI, we don't know where to start. Which way does it go? So what is the conclusion? So we read. The conclusion is that we all read, and it's an interesting phenomenon that we don't allow the AI, the politicians, and also the laziness to make ourselves stupid. There is an interesting phenomenon. It's called Spotify. People ask, show me your Spotify list and I will tell you who you are. So I was thinking that maybe, in the footnote, in the signature of our email, we should put our Spotify list that inspires us. And that would also be our business card. Does it work now? Yes. There are organizations that run it. I would like to say one thing in defense of the politicians, that there are very, very few persons who, in full awareness, would like not to educate. To be more specific, Monika Woźniak mentioned that all of the preschools now and creches in Poland will have a system, and it will be homogeneous, and it will include reading. Well, how many children in Poland actually get to go to a crèche? 20%. Unfortunately, the rest of the answer is inaudible, thus interpretation is impossible. So 20% of children will get it. And it's not that someone doesn't want to include all the other children. It's simply that other children do not attend crèches. So it is very difficult to find access to those children. Oh, I can see that you already have a microphone. So it's not that someone is doing this on purpose. It is just difficult. Olga Napiątek, Civil Polonus Foundation. There is lots of praise, and I wanted to also take the floor because for 5 years I have been running a group of tutors who support those 250 libraries in better work. So I have a feeling regarding what Magda said, that we have to think about taking care of the younger and the adults. So who is going to do it? So it is the public libraries who do it. So it is the program of being close and all the other places that they do it as well as it is possible. So This is about thinking about the framework. This is the local cultural policy, but it's also about partnerships that are local partnerships, national partnerships promoting literacy that get outside of those silos. That when we take care of reading to children, there has to be a cooperation between the local librarians, school libraries, and also the early education teacher. I know that Kinga Białas is also working on this also when it comes to the Polish lessons, but this cooperation is absolutely vital, and the political will and work is necessary because we have to have the regional, local, and also national policies. So in the new policy, the libraries have to get the support, financial, organizational, in order to run it as well. Because it's great that business is supporting different actions, but in a systemic way, it cannot cover all of this, including the nurseries, the crechets. It is important what you said about people in all of this, and maybe the success is also connected with the civic society. Yes, it is the cooperation. Yes, it is the civic society that had been destroyed, and now we are coming back to it, and this is why it's working. So recently in Bydgoszcz, we had a meeting about literacy, but at the same time there was also the NATO forum. So there were lots of people in the uniforms, and at the same time people with linen bags, more culture. So two shields of this world. So literacy, it is actually our weapon. There are more than 7 birds over here. And so I hope that after this conference, your feeling of agency and also that you can make a difference will drive you, because it is really important to find the motivation and also to be driven despite silos. Well, what we had in Sopot, but also EFNIA conference that you organized, Maria, that was inspirational. Diana, Kylie, this was really important for me, and then Deutsche Lesen as well. So business can also contribute through special funds that will contribute not just to events, but this is about financing the social change, because in fact the programs that we are talking about is creating a social change that is organic, that's multi-annual. And this is really long durée. Our situation is not going to change overnight. We can build step by step, but just moving 1.2 percentage points regarding literacy is about our common satisfaction. So let us continue working on this connective tissues on level. This is the animation, this is the human resources, this is the culture, and really every level. We probably have got 1 or 2 minutes because we need to finish.
I'm going to use the example of the 7 birds. 30 years ago, a woman in the UK realized a child in her school didn't know what a book was. She created Bookstart in the UK. There was something similar in America, and I think in Italy. Various people came. There was a woman in Japan who just got sponsorship for a year. She came, she talked to the UK, we talked a little. There are 9 million babies in Japan have now gone through that reading program. Somewhere in Tanzania, there is a man doing the same. We couldn't hear from him last week because he couldn't get a visa to Brussels, but he's doing the same. Everyone here is doing the same. We're trying to work out how we become the birds going in our direction. And some of those birds are not-for-profits. In my country, I have a car rental company and a teddy bear company who are also birds helping us. So any business can do this. But I am really confident, and it's hard at the moment in all our countries. We need to give. I will go home tonight to my 15-year-old daughter, and she will ask me what happened. And I want to be able to tell her that there are lots of people in Poland who are trying to make change. I talk to her what happens and to say there are people who are optimistic, because it can be very hard at the moment, and we need to keep the birds and the optimism.
Thank you.
Great.
Możesz.
Ja przepraszam, ale
I'm sorry, but I have to share this with you because one word opens another word. 2 days after the elections, we organized a meeting in Gdańsk with Olga Tokarczuk. Is anyone in the hall who was present there? Soon we are going to make streaming available. It was an incredible meeting of a spiritual therapeutic dimension. It lifted the people who attended the meeting. There were people who came to that meeting who were like in a mass pessimism. Those people were broken. And what literature can give us at the time is a leader, and a person who will take us in the right direction will be spectacular. It is difficult to describe this experience, and I do believe that my words are also a bit abstract, but we need to recreate a community for recipient of literature.
Like discussion clubs, book clubs, reading in Poland has a networking character. 60% of people say that they've started to read because someone recommended it, someone talked to them. And this is very important what you said, that this is about recommendation, book recommendation, talking about it. The fact that we can talk about Rebecca Solnit suddenly, this gave us a lot of inspiration or power to act. This is off mic, we cannot translate.
wspaniale.
Ludzie narzekają na
People are. What was said out of mic was that people are complaining about television and they are going back to reading books. Okay, thank you very much. I think that besides that, we need to talk to one another, all of us, and what Tomasz Stawiszyński said about all the cliches that we buy easily, that those do this and these do that, that we need to break through this, that the community is built when we see each other, and that the political divisions are something that we can get rid of. I'm sorry, but I need to say something like that. I believe that this is extremely important, because only then it will really construct an actual community, including or at least inviting everyone, because the fact that someone doesn't feel invited, it might be their personal decision, but the fact that we're open to everyone. Okay, listen, we have 15 minutes break now. Yes, we've deserved the break, and we'll try to return on time for our last panel. I would like to thank all my panelists.